Hey guys, what's going on? This is Chippy99 here today from my bros, and today I'm bringing you the first episode of Star Wars Battlefront 2017, yet to be titled, but hopefully we'll be getting more information in the coming days and months. So today's episode and the first episode of this year is going to be all about when I think this game is going to be set. The first game was set in the original trilogy era, just a bit after, so I'm going to be discussing with you what I'd like, but more importantly, my predictions for what will actually happen when the game eventually comes out. So first things first then, before we talk about when I think it's going to be set, I just want to share with you guys some of my assumptions about the game. You know, is it going to be the same as the EA game, or is it going to take a route like the original Battlefront games back in 2005? To be quite honest, I definitely think it's going to be exactly the same style of game as the EA game we saw back in 2015. Personally, it's not my preferred style of game, but I think the amount of money EA made and the amount of positive reaction this game got, I think that's the style they're going to go with. Keep it similar, and they'll get their pennies really, because that's all they want. All they want is your money. So that's my first assumption. My second assumption is an improvement to the game. There's going to be a story mode. I think there's a 95% chance there's going to be a story mode. So that's going to come in to my assumptions, to my picks on what I think will be, or when it will be set. Also, I think they're going to have to put in more content. Whether it be planets, game modes, heroes, whatever it is, there's going to have to be more content. Because that, for me, and for pretty much all of the community, that was the biggest problem with this game. There was not enough to do. And yes, I purchased the Season Pass, and with the Season Pass it was a lot better. But on day one, there was definitely not enough to do. Multiplayer is great, but people want more than that, and survival just didn't hit the sort of targets that it was supposed to be quite honest. And the final assumption is, before we get into the meat of this video, the meat and bones, before we get into that, when do I think it's going to be coming out? I think it's going to be coming out September, which will be important for one of the timelines that I'm going to be discussing with you this episode. So then, my least likely opinion to be the timeline where this game is set is the original trilogy. Yes, I've put that down as a potential timeline they could use. Now, yes, it's the least likely, but it could happen. I think, as I said earlier, the first game worked really well, and maybe if they put a story mode onto this game, maybe if it was similar to how it is now with the Season Pass and they added more content, that could be a real winner within many people's eyes. So that's definitely something they could do, but I don't think they will. It's already been done. People wouldn't buy it because they've already got this game. They don't want to re-buy the same game they've already got. So that's why it's my least likely on this list. Moving on to fourth place in this list is the Old Republic era. So if you didn't know, which I'm sure you do, but if you didn't know, this is set before The Phantom Menace, the first Star Wars film, quite a bit before actually. This has so much content. We've already seen games like Knights of the Old Republic and Star Wars Old Republic Online. They're really good games. It's really interesting though that they're not canon, and I think that's something to bear in mind, that if they were to make it in the Old Republic, they'd have so much creative freedom. They could do anything they wanted, and everyone pretty much knows of Revan. Revan would be such a cool character to play as on Battlefront. Bane as well. All the Sith are awesome. Even some of the heroes, they are awesome in the Old Republic, and there's barely any canon stuff. So that's why I think that personally, that's what I'd like to see. But as you can see, it's fourth on this list. The reason is, I don't think it would be the biggest selling game. I think people wouldn't quite understand, you know, where it is on the timeline. People had that trouble with Rogue One, not the huge fans. Some of the people I talked to didn't have a clue when it was Rogue One. So the Old Republic, they might think it's the Clone Wars, might start thinking, oh, where's Yoda, where's all these different people? So I don't think that'll happen. And the other thing is, there's also a supposed Netflix series coming out on the Old Republic. Now, this could be a problem if they wanted to make an Old Republic Battlefront, mainly because they'll try and incorporate some of the Netflix things into the game. Now, I think an Old Republic one would be great. Say this Battlefront game comes out, Then we've got another Battlefront game, another 2 years down the line. So they'll want to mix it up again. So I think that'll be the time when the Netflix series comes out. Then they'll be able to build on the characters they've already put in that series and put them into a game and maybe change up their target audience into a more adult kind of game. So that's why I think it's in 4th place on this list. 3rd place on the list then, guys, an interesting one actually, another one I'd quite like to see. I've titled it The Rise of the Empire. Now, the idea in my head of where this is going to be is sort of Rogue One, but a bit before Rogue One, a bit like Star Wars Rebels actually, the TV series. I think that sort of time would be really good, especially when we've got to consider this story mode which we think is going to be coming in. You know, Old Republic would have had a great story mode, and I'm sure it would, but can you imagine a Rise of the Empire story mode, sort of starting off the game in the mists of the Clone Wars, then bang, Order 66, the Empire are coming in, and you've got to start this rebellion. Now, there are games like this. There's the mobile game Star Wars Uprising, not an amazing game, but that's a similar rebel idea, and I don't think EA are going to push that because, again, they don't have a lot of things to play around with. They've got to sort of make up a few things themselves, and I think they'd rather get the money, get something people know, and then that'll all gel for them nicely into this concept that they've made with the first Battlefront game. Another thing also to bear in mind is the Respawn game that's coming out, which also appears to be looking like it's going to be in that Rogue One sort of setting, so they won't want to overlap games, so that's another reason why this is 3rd on my list and not in the top 2. Moving on to our 2nd place pick, and I think this would be a great game, and here's why. It's set in the Clone Wars. Now, I can already hear the haters booing in the streets at a Clone Wars game, a prequel game. Acknowledging the prequels is something we all don't want to do. But just hear me out. Battlefront 2, the original Battlefront 2, was a great game because of the Clone Wars. Everyone loved that game. There was so much choice, so many planets. Just think of that. I know there was the original trilogy in there as well, but there's so much content from the Clone Wars that was in that game. EA could just chuck all of it into this game, silence the haters that there wasn't enough content. Hundreds of planets, hundreds of heroes. You could have hero fight. None of this rubbish, oh, 3 heroes, 3 rebels rubbish, so when you're a rebel you just get slashed to pieces. No, none of that. 20 on 20, Sith versus Jedi, smashing each other, naughty stuff. That's what we want to see. We don't want to be necessarily running around as rebels all the time. We don't want to be, oh, a little token on the floor to pick up a Jedi. No, we want to be Jedis, slicing people left, right and centre. That's what people want. That's what I want, and I guarantee you that's what you want. So, Clone Wars, I think, would probably be the fans' choice when it comes down to it. Maybe Old Republic would be fans' choice. This would fit the system that's already in place great, with the 3 heroes, 3 villains, naff rubbish, 3-4 planets rubbish. But as I say, they can expand that so much more. Story mode, we already know that would be sick in Clone Wars. So I really think this could be the one that would really make the franchise stuck in people's minds. And I think also it would improve the prequels, which is quite something to say. But I think if you can put a good story around this, it could improve the prequels to make people actually go back and watch them. So that's my number 2 pick. Not number 1, number 2 pick. There's something number 1 which I'm sure you all have guessed by now. I think it's the most sensible option they've got. And I actually think this could be better than a Clone Wars game. I know I've just raved about a Clone Wars game, Jedi slashing people up. But I think a new era Star Wars game could be the way forward, and I think it's definitely the most likely. That's why it's number 1 on this list. So the new era is basically Star Wars Episode 7, 8 and 9. I think people now just want a game, the First Order versus the Resistance. We haven't had a game yet. It's been 2 years since The Force Awakens came out. Not a single game on console has come out that has anything to do with it. Yes, the first Battlefront had the Battle of Jakku, but that was before Episode 7, so we're getting a bit tired now. But I think the main reason this will come out and this will be the new EA's 2017 Star Wars Battlefront 2 game is because of the hype train to get onto Star Wars Episode 8. I think this will be a huge marketing tool, just like it was in Episode 7, to try and get people to go and watch the film. And I think potentially they could even chuck in maybe a few new planets from Episode 8 into this game, basing it mainly around Episode 7, you know, heroes, Episode 7 heroes. But I think they could chuck in maybe a few Episode 8 Easter eggs, and then do an Episode 8 Easter egg like they've done with Rogue One on Star Wars Battlefront at the moment. So once again, this fits the system perfectly. Even you could expand it a bit more with some of the stuff from Star Wars Episode 7. But the problem I have with it, actually, so as you can probably tell, this isn't my personal choice, but it's a really solid game, and out of the ones that I think they'll do, this is the best choice. But the problem I have is the story mode. I think, where do you go with a story mode like this? I think, interestingly, it won't be a Rebels one if they do it. This is quite a out there opinion, but I think they might do it on the side of the Empire, because let's think about it. If it's set in the new era, it's going to be an Episode 7 film, and if you set it in the view of the Rebels, then you're sort of going to get this Episode 7 game where it's like the movie game, if you know what I'm trying to say, where you're just sort of playing the film. So maybe if they bridge the gap between 7 and 8, but even that, we've been told, it kicks off, well, Episode 8 kicks off right where Episode 7 left off. So build up to Episode 7 maybe, in the Senate, in the Republic, those planets that got blown up, potentially. Maybe even following Sidon Itano, that was one of the guys in the canteen in Episode 7. He's like a bounty hunter sort of guy. That might be quite cool, maybe a bounty hunter, more of outsider story, but I don't think that's what they're going for, mainly story. I think it's going to be a bit like Battlefront 2 back in the days, where you're following one of the factions through the story. So they might even do two stories, a Rebel story and an Empire story. But I think, like in Battlefront 2, following that Empire storyline, I think that's so much more fun than following a Rebels version. So that's my opinion, guys. I think the most likely pick for the 2017 Star Wars Battlefront game era is the new era. So my personal choice, I think I'd love to see a Rise of the Empire game, I'd love to see an Old Republic, and I'd love to see a Clone Wars. Any of those three, I know I picked three there, but any of those three I think it'd be great to see. And I definitely think they'll do Old Republic and Clone Wars in the future. Maybe not Rise of the Empire, but they're my personal favourites. What's yours? Leave it down in the comments below. As always, like, subscribe, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.